Live, pretty sure. Let's see. Yes, we're live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 3 of the Sparring Partners podcast with myself, Coby McKinley, and my co-host, Brad Jones.
Me.
Yep, tell the people hello. Well, Brad, how have you been since last week? What have you been up to?
I'm doing great. I worked, and then we watched some fights on Saturday, and yeah, that's it. Now we're going to talk about them because we're living in a pandemic. That's what we do.
Very good. Any new developments in like mask fashion that you're enjoying, or do you?
I did order a pack of new masks from Amazon this week, and they were nice enough to send me 2 packs of masks. So I wanted 3 and I ended up with 6. So now I have 6 of the exact same mask. I'm ready to go. A new one every day of the week.
That's cool. Do they look different, or is it going to look like Doug's closet from?
It's the exact same basic black mask every single time.
Okay. So you just I would really appreciate a picture of just those hung up in your closet all side by side.
I can work on that.
Yeah,
we should start wearing masks on the show. Just to set a good example.
Right, just muffle everything. But yeah, dude. Well, that's cool. I've not done any new mask developments. I've just done the same exact thing. I did. I'm an adult homeschool right now, which is online college, so that's pretty good. I was hurtling towards these fights. Getting some form of sporting entertainment. It's the only one I care about, so yeah, it is what it is. But well, I guess we'll just get into it. The past weekend we had Holm headlining a card against Irene Aldana. I'm pretty sure they were saying Irene. Probably the correct way, but that's Irene Aldana. Holm picks up a decision victory. And then we're not going to run down the list. There's like 3 fights that I felt were very important on this card. The rest of the card was very clearly a twofold.
Filler.
Yeah, I mean, we got to get these people some fights. And it didn't seem like where they were on the card was particularly important outside of the main one. So, I mean, whatever. We can talk about name value or whatever. I thought the card was reasonably fun. I felt like it was a card that we learned things from, which is kind of my bare minimum when watching a mixed martial arts event. Not about the broader sport in general, but the individual fighters, and we'll talk a little bit about the individual fighters. And I guess we'll start with the main event and kind of work our way down. So these rodents, man, we were talking about them earlier.
Yes.
All right, they are all gone. The main event, Holm, Irene Aldana. What were your thoughts on the main event? I have my own, but I want to hear yours first.
It was fine. Holly did the thing, got the 5-round decision. It's cool. Did we learn anything new? Anything that we didn't already know? Not necessarily. We had the 2 biggest performers and winners of the night were Durandamy and Holm, and they're both coming off their losses to Nunes, and it's great. Holm, cool. You took out a fresh contender. That's cool. But all right, now what? Are you going to rematch Nunes? Or it's just a mess. That whole division's a mess. It's paper thin. It's all paper thin at 135 and 45.
Yeah, man. I mean, I felt like we saw a new. To focus specifically on Holm, because I feel the same way about GDR. I felt like we saw new wrinkles in the game of a 38-year-old athlete.
What wrinkles were you seeing?
sitting down on punches. She sat down on her punches when, Holm still would do her flurries to set up the kicks like she's known to do. She's thrown that combination time and time and time again. But when she really wanted to, in the past, there was multiple things. The first was sitting down on her punches. I felt like Holm really made her punches count in a way that she really hasn't before. She used, even though she has pro boxing experience and was a damn good pro boxer, she's never really relied on her hands in MMA. It's always been about her kicks. So her kicks have always kind of done the flurry thing and then set up a kick. But this time, when she wanted to touch Aldana, she did, with some real impact. And then her wrestling looked awesome. Granted, Irene Aldana, you don't think of her as a wrestling threat, but coming into the fight, it was some of, if not the best, takedown defense in the whole division.
Yeah.
So, at least with Holm, we saw an athlete nearing 40 that implemented sitting down on her punches in MMA and chain wrestling, being able to get Irene Aldana down on the mat when she wanted. Will she beat Nunez in a rematch? I don't know. Because I don't think Nunez really needs to change that much to beat her again at all, really.
So what she does works.
But it's not like it's the same Holly Holm that we've seen time and time again. So I was happy because, like you, I like her. I like Holm. I don't like watching Holm lose. It's just she's frustrating to watch sometimes.
It's just, during the Megan Anderson fight, when she wrestled her the whole time, that was her big wrestling, show out, and that's cool. That was a great thing, but she wasn't able to use that against Nunez because Nunez's takedown defense is just too good. And yeah, Aldana was just circling directly into Holly's power the whole night, and it's it's like you can look great and you can look improved, but if you aren't showing something that could threaten Nunez, then it's like, all right, what Yeah.
I mean, well, we talked about it.
But this is just like where we are. It's this is what it is. This is the division at 135. Like, I think Holly should rematch GDR next, and just go ahead and do that for. You can call that a number one contender fight if you want to, because they're the two highest ranked people. Nobody else are there. She's already beat GDR twice. Nunez has 2 wins over GDR.
Yeah, but hey, man. Speaking of GDR, I guess we talk about her now. She looked great. She looked great. It was the first submission of her career.
Mm-hmm. Her entire career.
Her whole career, and
put her to sleep.
Hey, man.
The submission specialist put her to sleep.
Hey, when again, GDR in her 30s, nearing the end of her. I mean, she seems. I listened to her post fight, and she made it very clear that this is my side gig. I am a police officer full time, and I only do this part time, which might explain why it's taken her all this time to really start to shore up that part of her game. But hey, it was a really awesome win. Again, you're left feeling like, does that change my opinion of how a fight with Nunez would go? No. But that is the blessing and curse of having a dominant champion in a division. The division, you look around and you see who checks the boxes of what a fighter would need to beat someone like Nunez, and fortunately for Nunez, there's no one there. I mean, there's no one. Miracles happen, but the odds are Nunes, she's just too good. The skill gap is too wide, and I don't know what any woman at 135 pounds does with her, really. Yeah, so I guess we'll close out Saturday talking about Carlos Condit, Court McGee.
Yeah.
Hey man, we got him. He's in the win column.
Yeah.
Oh man,
after a long time.
So
a win
good.
Over an active UFC fighter. He did it.
I know. It's so good to see the natural born killer back in the win column, and also topped the charts on the Reebok payout.
Yeah.
He made more. Here's a stat. Forgive me for consulting the phone, but from MMA Mania, Carlos Condit earns more than both headliners combined via Reebok payout. So hey, man, it pays to be a veteran.
Dude's been around forever.
Yeah, you got that.
Been around forever.
Got that.
I think the best. The best thing coming out of this is like the last 5 years or so, right? Condit's fought like once a year. He fight like once every summer, and he'll get submitted or something. It seems like he's wanting to keep it rolling after this one. He's talking about coming back fairly soon, fighting Mike Brown.
Hey man, I'm down.
Matt Brown, not Mike Brown. But yeah, no, that's good. Keep the train rolling. You know, you got something good going. Keep it up, because.
Yeah. I mean, is that who you would like to see him fight next?
Sure, I'm down with that. Two old guys, they're old.
Yeah,
like
so
that's
Dan
the thing
Hardy.
is, I don't want Condit fighting, ranked guys like in the division. Like if Condit's gonna be fighting somebody, I want it to be like a Nick. He's the one that's been bringing this stuff up this week. Is like I'd like a Nick Diaz rematch or Dan Hardy, sure, or like some of these old guys. Diego Sanchez.
Has he brought up Hardy by name?
Not Hardy. No, his big one this week was Nick Diaz. He wants the Nick Diaz rematch.
Why would Diaz take that fight?
It's just we have all these like old guys right now. They're just coming back wanting something. I'm like, sure, match the old guys up. Let them do old man fights.
Hey, why not, man? I love fights like that.
I'd much rather see that kind of stuff than see Diego Sanchez have to fight like a 24-year-old kid. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I agree. I you know what? That's a fight that I would be down for. Diego versus Condit. But that's what worried me because I don't know if you picked up on it, but post fight. Dan Hardy is talking to Condit, and he says, you're a guy that clearly belongs in the elite of the division, and that's not what I saw. But clearly there's something to be said about confidence. So I'd say maybe another win against a veteran, and then we maybe get the natural born killer as a gate type guy, and maybe a couple wins there. I mean, he just doesn't have a lot of time left, but really, what do? Do you risk him retiring before this timeline of like responsible promotion with a fighter, or do you say like, hey, you got a name, here's I don't even know, here's I don't know, one of the top 15, one top 10.
Definitely.
Oh no, please don't.
I know.
Actually, what? Actually, you know what? That's not a fight that I hate for Condit.
No, it's not terrible, but I'm like, Condit has such an old skill set. Like he has no takedown defense whatsoever. Welterweight, the top of welterweight is dominated by elite wrestlers that will just blast double him all day long. He never learned takedown defense. Still hasn't to this day.
Well, he didn't. He fought at an age where he didn't need to. He could fight off his back really well. He had submissions.
And he was super durable. Yeah. He could take a lot of damage and deal it back, but like. That era of Robbie Lawler owning welterweight where it's like just swang and bang at the top of the division is gone. Usman and those Covington, those guys just like shut all that shit down. They're like, I'm going to wrestle the hell out of you.
Yeah, man. I'm very excited that he picked up a win. And even though it was 3 rounds, his legs.
That's for the best.
Yeah, his legs
he doesn't need to be in
looked
the main
kind of
event.
bruised up. But overall, it seemed like he didn't take too much damage over the course of the fight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll get him back in there freaking December or something. I don't know. I do want to keep the ball rolling because it's one of those things where you want – it's this thing I see over and over as guys get older. There's a point in their career where they are a little bit more, they're wanting to get as much experience as possible. Then they hit a point where it's like, I can coast, I can kind of pick the big fights that I want to pick. And you do notice quite a bit as guys realize, oh man, I don't have much time left. Mm-hmm. Those guys, once again, they're back to being like, hey, I didn't get hurt. I didn't take a lot of damage. I want to get back in there. Because I just am not sure Condit, and for good reason, knows how long he's going to hold up because he's been injury prone. I doubt he fought once a year because he wanted to. So that's Carlos Condit. And I don't have a good segue, so I'll just say what we're going to talk about next, which is there was a sound bite, a sentence that got said by Dana White, and I will go right quick to the old source, which is
we cite our sources around here.
Yeah, nothing but the best for the Sparring Partners audience, or thoroughness, right? From MMAJunkie.com, Dana White calls John Jones, Israel Adesanya the fight to make after their Twitter war, which ended in Adesanya evoking the name of John Jones's late mother. And here I'll read what Dana White had to say about the matchup. It doesn't depend on what I want. It depends on what they want. Adesanya is a champ. He's really coming into his own, and you can tell he knows this is his house, and he comes and acts like it. I think he wants the winner of Whitaker and Cannonier, and then we'll see what happens after that. So, with that quote, when I read that quote, at first you read the headline, fight to make, Jones, Adesanya, and it got me really worried that we were just about to go totally off the rails, abandon Cannonier, and just go straight for a super fight. But it sounds like Dana White is going to tempt the MMA gods on this one and let each fighter kind of do what they want to do in the meantime. What are your thoughts on that and what Dana White had to say about the fight?
There is a reason why he brought it up, though, and the reason is that they're headed in two different directions. Once John goes up to heavyweight, you've lost the Izzy fight, because you have to make the Izzy fight against John while John is still within the range of being 205 pounds, or at least being able to cut back to light heavyweight to do the fight, right? As soon as John's like, all right, this is it, I'm packing on muscle, I'm going up to the 240s, I'm going for heavyweight, it gets real hard to make that Izzy fight, because even if Izzy goes up to 205, big gap there. The size and muscle gap's just going to be big. So I feel like the UFC's being like, okay, John's about to head up. He's already dropped the belt, so it's not really clogging anything up. We could do just a one-off to main event. Izzy versus John, still going to be huge, even if there's no belt involved. And then regardless, win or lose, John doesn't really lose any kind of stock. Boom, he goes up to heavyweight after that, can go after the heavyweight belt. Then while that's happening, you get Stipe and Ngannou 2 out of the way. But yeah, I don't know. That'd be something. I'm still generally opposed to it, probably. I'd rather see if Cannonier obliterates Whitaker, I'd rather see Cannonier take on Izzy. But I can't lie. I mean, Izzy and John have been going at each other's neck for like all week, just in quarantine. Izzy don't give a goddamn. He's just going after him. And it'd be cool. It'd be a coal fight, you know?
Yeah, I'm getting warmer to it. I remember when I first heard about it, I just thought, why?
Yeah.
Like what for what? It's one of those things where it's really important how you frame it. And fighters have spoken about this in the past, where it's very important for the lighter fighter to call out the heavier fighter, because if it's the inverse of that, the bigger fighter just looks like a bully. And that's kind of how I've felt the whole time about Jones and Adesanya, because Jones has been talking about this since Adesanya. Pretty sure before Adesanya even had a belt. They've been talking about this fight, and I'm getting warmer to it, but at the same time, they are heading in different directions, and this isn't one of those. It hasn't built up to one of those fights where I have to see it. Like if we never saw that fight, it wouldn't feel to me like something that was truly lost, because the whole thing feels forced to begin with. The question has never been, can Jones deal with a smaller man?
Right.
That's
how many
never,
middleweights? How many middleweights did he defend the light heavyweight belt against? Like so many.
I mean, even then, even if you just talk about 205ers, the question has never been, yeah, can Jones handle a middleweight moving up, and like for a man who is arguably the greatest of all time, it's not a particularly interesting fight to like further his
no.
from here on out, right? The moves of John, and this is kind of what John has done to himself through the way he's steered his career and by giving up the belt and what have you. But at this point in Jones's career, he needs to make sure that his fights, each and every fight, builds a legacy. And as special and unique as Adesanya is, he is a two-time defending champion. He is not in. While some may look on and say, "Wow, he might be the best to ever do it at middleweight," his resume doesn't say that. So to rush this fight to take on Jones, I just don't get it. I don't know. If fights had no consequences, then yeah, do it. But anything can happen in a fight, and by doing this fight, especially on the Izzy side, I'm not even saying Izzy would lose, but the risk in a fight like that to their physical health, I don't think is worth it to derail all of the rest of the things that are going on for these two men individually right now. Yeah. So that's why I really I don't know, man. I just want to slow the brakes on this, because it's if we never got to see it, I wouldn't put it up there with a lost fight like GSP Silva.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't. But I mean, hey, I'll watch it. I watched UFC Fight Night Holm Aldana. I will watch the fight, but I'm just not super excited for it.
Yeah. No, I'd rather see John go on up to heavyweight. It'd be different if John still had the light heavyweight belt and Izzy had, like, if John had just knocked out Reyes or Blachowicz, whatever, and he had just defended the belt and Izzy had just defended the belt, and neither one of them had clear number one contenders, and John was clearly like, all right, I'm going to do this one last fight against Izzy, and then I'm going up to heavyweight. Cool. But other than in the circumstances we're in now, John doesn't have a belt. Like, nobody really gains or loses anything if that fight happens. Like, nah, let's just move on. Let's just have John fight the winner of Stipe and Ngannou too, and then, let Izzy keep doing his thing in middleweight.
Yeah, I mean, like, at that point, 205 is, like, now that John doesn't have the belt, the weigh-in of 205 pounds is irrelevant. So now it doesn't even make sense to do it like if you wanted two fighters to just meet for a one-off, you would do something like a catch weight.
Yeah,
like one
weight.
fighter, like 195.
Yeah.
Right? It makes no sense strategically anymore for Adesanya to agree to 205. Doesn't. Now that a belt's not on the line, what really, other than another scalp.
There's such a size discrepancy, like to the level of which I'm like it's off-putting. Like, yeah, I don't know, especially with John being the grappler versus Izzy being a striker. Like, I don't know.
I mean, that's what I fully expect we would see.
You expect, of course, John's not going to send him a strike. Let me just take him down.
No. Yeah, man, it's we will be sitting here one day talking about Saturday's main event of Adesanya Jones. But, let's pump the brakes. Let's let them do what they're going to do. And not today. I'm not super interested in it right this second. Speaking of something that I'm interested in, I am interested in surprises. And you know who's in store for a really great surprise? Khabib Nurmagomedov. How was that for a segue, sir?
Excellent segue.
Yeah, we're getting better. So Khabib says while he's doing media for his upcoming fight against Justin Gaethje, unification bout, cannot wait to see that fight. He's doing media, and he mentions that Dana White told him there's a very big surprise in store for Khabib after 254. There's a ton of speculation about what this surprise could be. I mean, there's things being thrown around like it's a Mayweather fight, it's a Conor McGregor rematch. What do you think it is?
Well, I feel like the two biggest ones right out of the gate are the GSP fight or this like Khabib and Conor coaching on the Ultimate Fighter that Dana's been talking about. Those don't do anything for me. Neither one of them. And I don't think the GSP one obviously does, but the Conor on Tough obviously doesn't do anything for Khabib. Khabib has no interest in that. Why would he? It's awful. We talked about this. They've done this all the time. They're like, oh, we got a nice hot rivalry. Let's stick them on Tough, and then it'll ruin it because it burns out over the course of 8 weeks. But we have to keep watching TJ Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt going at each other, and then the rivalry just gets ruined. Or Holly and Misha. Misha ended up becoming the hero and all of it at the end, and she became like the sympathetic figure. So yeah, no, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those two things. But also, to me, I feel like it may not necessarily be the opponent, but the location. I think you do Khabib in a giant arena in Russia. You send him to Russia, let him have all his Putins around and all the people.
Every single one.
All the Putins. And you load them up 50,000 deep in whatever giant, fucking the arena that Russia's got. I don't know if they got some kind of coliseum. Put them in there, and you have Khabib. Whatever. That one, if this is saying that he gets past Gaethje, that would be his 30-0 fight. So that's big. If he does the big 30-0, he always talked about his dad wanting him to retire at 30-0. If that's like the last one, you do it real big. So you something real big.
Yeah, man. I think that the GSP fight is not something that Dana White was ever really sold on. Mm-hmm. I think it's something that Khabib really wanted. And I think he still really wants it. I think that if
GSP already burned the UFC on this deal with Bisping. Yeah. They just experienced this with him, and they know he'd do the same thing again.
Well, but the only way you do it is if Khabib is is steadfast in the fact that he's retiring at 30-0. If you're going to lose if you're going to lose your champion either way, hey man, I mean, I'm tuning in for that all day, even though I feel like it's ultimately not that competitive.
They just did that with DC because he's a company guy. Knew it was his last retirement fight, still put him in a title fight. They was cool with it because he's always been a guy.
Yeah, well, and you know, it adds to the fact that not only is one competitor probably one and done, both of them are. I doubt GSP's not going to hang out. Yeah, he wants to collect a third belt, which is, I think, the only thing where, you know, MMA could ever offer GSP to come back is the possibility to be the first man to ever win 3 belts.
Yeah.
That would be an incredible thing to watch. At least watch him attempt it, which maybe one day we'll get to talk about how we think that fight would go. I'll just give a preview of mine. Not great for the Canadian. But, you know, I think that you're right. I think more than likely, well, I would say you would be right if we were not living in the middle of a global pandemic. So unless Khabib wants to wait a full year, where hopefully some of this stuff is buttoned up, I don't know if you do a stadium show, but I am pretty sure that it's a fight that's going to make Khabib a lot of money. So really, any name that's going to be able to do that.
I'm kind of off topic. I'm anxious to see how big of a spectacle they make the Khabib Gaethje fight over there, because Khabib, fought Dustin in Abu Dhabi last year, but the world was still open. But that was still like huge. Like Putin was there at that, and that was a big deal. And now, Rona's still locked down, but I still think that's going to be massive. I think the Khabib Gaethje fight is going to be real big.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man. You best believe Putin and the gang is getting into the bubble in Abu Dhabi.
It's been a wild year. The Usman Masvidal COVID pay-per-view sold more than Cerrone McGregor back in January. It's insane. It's crazy.
Hey, it turns out when you only fight once every other year, people kind of forget who you are, or like forget, it's actually, side note, not to distract from the conversation again, but Khabib's cousin signed with Bellator.
Umar, right? Or what was it? Umar?
No, he sounds like Usman Nurmagomedov. It's the most creative fighter name I've ever heard. I said, "Oh my God, we're running out of names."
Yeah.
We're running out of names. We're just throwing random Usman Nurmagomedov. There you go, the scariest man alive. There you go.
Bellator snatched him up. That was a good move. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole other topic. Okay, but other than GSP, so it's
there's not a lot of options, right?
Yeah,
something big has to either be GSP, a Conor rematch, or I want to say Tony Ferguson, but you have to do something to make that big. I think they're going to do Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chandler. I think you can do something big with either one of those if either guy has a really big performance. Like Michael Chandler goes out there and knocks out Tony Ferguson, then now all of a sudden you have a new interesting player on the scene up there at the top 3. You can do something with that. But if Tony has a really good performance, takes out Chandler, there's still a chance we can do this a 6th time. We can pull off the long-awaited Khabib versus Tony fight. Now, some of the shine is gone now that Tony had his ass destroyed by Gaethje, but
I don't think so, man.
There's still something there for sure. A little shine was diminished, just a little.
Shine.
But there were reasons as to why that was so, thrown together in last second.
Yeah, that's the thing. Styles make fights. And and we still don't know what a crazy, weird style like Tony Ferguson put up against the smashing machine. Well,
You're
someone
right.
else.
Another thing too.
Oh my God! I
After
want that
the
fight so bad.
Khabib and Gaethje fight is over, we may that result may make us think a little bit differently about that previous one. Like if Khabib goes out there and just tears straight through Justin and doesn't, just like Conor and Porier, like, okay, all right, this like, all right, that's it.
Who is, man? I'm just like the surprise, the big surprise. Like if the big surprise really is like, how disappointed will you be as a fan if it turns out the big surprise is a McGregor rematch?
But the thing is, who's it a surprise to? Is it a surprise to the fans, or is it a surprise to Khabib?
I'm thinking, yeah, that's the thing. So it would be a Conor rematch would be a surprise to Khabib because he and his management have come out and said that there's no way in hell that fight is happening.
Want that.
So it would be a surprise to them, I guess. As far as a surprise to us, it would be, hey, 30-0. Do you want to go for the welterweight belt?
Yeah, or like a 165. People have thrown out that, like, the wild stuff about, like, forever. Dana's been talking about the Zuffa boxing and trying to get Floyd involved and, like, firing up Zuffa boxing and stuff.
Yeah.
I hope we stay away from that.
Yeah, according to Mayweather, he could make $300 million easy by fighting Khabib. And it's also not that big of a deal because he's not fighting a young lion boxer. He's just fighting an MMA guy. That's what he said in an interview recently. So
I'm done with this.
Way to sell it. Way to sell it.
No more MMA boxing crossovers, please.
Dude, that interview was very. I mean, people accuse Mayweather of like being afraid or whatever. No, he just straight up. I mean, he just straight up like, yeah. I mean, in boxing, there's a bunch of young lions that like, it's their time, which is, I would assume, his shorthand way of saying like, I would lose, but McGregor couldn't really punch that good, and I bet Khabib couldn't either. So I could probably make a combined $600 million by like just fighting them or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh man.
That's his argument.
No, we're done. We're done with that. So we have already kind of, we've mentioned him, right? But other news, Conor Porier 2. Let's talk about Conor Porier 2, or McGregor Porier 2, because if we would call it Conor Dustin 2. Let's be uniform here. That's all I'm trying to say. Coby, be uniform. So McGregor Porier 2 it was agreed to as a charity match. And then Dana White said, okay, fine, we'll offer the fight. And so according to, I believe it was ESPN where I read it, physical bout agreements have been sent out to the camps. Neither camp has confirmed or denied that they got it. As of right now, nothing, well, as of 2-3 days ago, nothing is said to have been signed by either side. It seems McGregor's not all in. He wants to carry forward with Pacquiao and a charity match not involving the UFC. Yeah, man, do you think this fight gets signed?
In the end, well, I don't know. I don't know if it does get signed. First, let's go with what I wanted. I wanted Dustin versus Tony because we were kind of like hyping that up. We were mentally prepared for that to be the replacement fight on the card for 255 or 254. And I kind of, the more I thought about that fight, I was like, those two guys haven't fought each other yet. It's a good time to do it. Let's go ahead and do that. But in matching those two up, you do kind of be like, okay, well, then who's Conor fight? You have Conor fight Michael Chandler, who doesn't have UFC name value yet. So Conor, I don't think would do that. So if you have to have somebody for Conor to fight, then sure, you're gonna break that fight up and just have him be Dustin. So sure, you can do the Dustin rematch. That's fine. They're both ready to go. They have some history there. But does it get done? I don't know. Definitely from Dustin's side, obviously. He's got everything to gain and nothing to lose. Conor doesn't seem too adamant about it. I mean, he definitely wants to fight. He's just like, he's adamant to fight. But I don't think he likes fighting for the UFC.
I mean, I think you're right. Well, I think
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that to Conor at this stage in his career, I think it legitimately, the McGregor promotions thing has always been a part of his bit, but I really do think that at this point in his career, he is not happy with the way MMA works. I think that he truly wants to. I think that I don't know what his contract is. I don't know how many fights are on his contract. He's no longer a champion. So if we ever see Conor go out outright trying to avoid a title match, that's why. If it ever seems obvious that okay, Conor should fight for a belt and he avoids it, championship clauses are real. Which means that your contract essentially, it extends your contract. If you win a belt, they get you for each bout, pretty much. I think that even though this is a little bit off topic, I think the future of Conor McGregor's fighting career really is fight out his contract and actually launch McGregor Promotions.
I mean, he's ascended to the point that Mayweather did, where it's like, I'll just put all this shit together myself. And he's already in the UFC being like, all right, when I show up, I'm picking who I'm fighting. I'm the one that's calling all the shots. We're going to work this around my schedule. So it's like, and if you're going to fight once a year and like one-offs, just whatever, what do you need the UFC for? Just do one. I mean, he already experienced this when they let him go do the boxing thing against Floyd. Like, the UFC obviously let him do that, but they weren't the ones that were orchestrating the whole thing. Like, he's seen, like, I can do this. I got all the money. Like, if I want to fight, if he does do kind of like he did this last week, where he's like, I want to fight Dustin. I'm like, I want to be totally in charge of making all the rules and all of it. Like, he can do that, but he's locked in the UFC contract. So I think once he gets out of that, I think we definitely see a point of like just Conor fighting an MMA fight outside of the UFC. It's just Conor Promotions, or him starting up his own organization at some point in the future. I can see that too, and him bringing in some Irish guys to fight on his undercards and stuff.
Well, I think that eventually it would be something like an actual co-promotion, because I think he will always need the talent pool of the UFC. I mean, it's slim pickings out there, especially name value and talent level. So I think that, there's the possible future of a McGregor, but as of right now, it seems like he doesn't really want to play ball. At the very least, he doesn't want to play to the UFC's tune anymore.
But this is, I mean, imagine him trying to negotiate this fight with Dustin in January, when it's like, okay, there's no gate, right? You're not going to make any money off of the gate. Your pay-per-view sales are extremely diminished because this whole ESPN Plus thing, the way it's set up, you have to have ESPN Plus to buy the pay-per-views. Probably sucks, dude. If you're a Conor being like, and you're not a champion, like, you don't have a lot of leverage here to be like, yo, where's my like millions and millions of dollars at? Like, I'm fighting Dustin Porier. And then Dustin was getting screwed over. He's still getting paid like 150 to show up and stuff. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, I imagine.
I think that's.
I'm undecided. I'm gonna go with no. This fight doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think that honestly, it is I think it comes down to two things. Conor wants to fight, and I also think that the UFC telling him, "Hey, man, we can't afford to have you fight because there's no gate." Well, dude seems to have been let in on the numbers. So I would assume McGregor knows that's not true. You could afford to pay him just as much as you always pay him. You just don't want to. Fighters, the number that's floated around is what, like 15 to 20% of the revenue goes to all fighters. This is McGregor included. As much as he makes, it's 15 to 20%. So, hey, I don't blame him. And I think that I just don't think Conor is accepting their reasoning because you saw in the leaked messages that was the sentiment of White. Like there's no gate. Like we're taking in way less money. But like I said, when you're McGregor and you have been a legitimate business partner of the UFC, you understand how much more money has been left on the table that the fighters don't get.
Yeah.
So, I as a fan, I want this power struggle, if you can even call it that, to be over. I want to see McGregor fight. I want to see Porier fight, and I want to see them fight each other again at lightweight because that's a brand new fight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. Even though I want it to happen, I don't think a rematch will happen. I don't think we see Conor again until Pacquiao in December, January, like they want to do. So, that's that. Burn. I just don't want to see him box. Whatever.
No.
It is what it is. In other news, we have fights on Saturday.
That's refreshing. We don't have those very often.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And you know where they take place?
Oh. Is it on Apex Island?
It's Yaz Island, a.k.a. Fight Island, a.k.a. Abu Dhabi.
Right.
Now,
right.
let's take it. Yeah. Let's take a look at the card, and by look at the card, we're gonna take a look at the top three. Not that there are not other prospects and good fights on there. There's a few matchups that I like, but as far as what to talk about, it's really the top three fights that are super intriguing to me. And we'll start with the third fight down. It's a heavyweight tilt. Ben Rothwell taking on Marcin Jabora. What do you think about that, and what do you think it does for the heavyweight division?
Before we get to that, I'm hitting you with the cold hard facts about this card and last week's card. Last week's card, it was a filler card. This week's card, it's a filler card. They both filler cards. All we're trying to do is get from Israel to Khabib. That's it. These cards ain't got nothing else to offer. But back on track. Okay. Rothwell was gone for a long time. He was suspended for drugs.
Now he sure was.
Off the drugs. He looked kind of rough at first. Obviously, your old man, dusty old man, your old rusty old man, because you've been gone. So now, knock some of the rust off. He's looking a little bit better. Jabora just be getting beat up, knocked out by people. Yeah. So whatever. It's 210 are they ranked? I don't care. It's too,
I just have the Google thing.
It's whatever.
It's a screen. I would click on them and tell you.
I don't care.
But it's.
I think anybody else does either. They're there.
Okay.
They'll swing and bang. It'll be fine. Ben Rothwell, man. I like
him as a fighter. I think he always he's an unorthodox dude, and you're not sure what he's gonna do. And I always like his fights for that. And also, he's a real vet in the game. I mean, he's fought all the way back in the IFL days. I think he got beat by Nelson for that IFL title, if I'm not mistaken. I probably am mistaken, but whatever. He fought in the IFL, so did Roy Nelson. Anyway,
they were there.
They were there. Roy Nelson won the belt. History lesson.
Do with that information what you will.
Yeah, just contextless information session over. So I like watching him fight, and you're right. Marcin Jabora has not. He was looking pretty hot there for a little bit as far as a heavyweight prospect, and things have not necessarily worked out for him. This is a good fight for where, I don't know if they have a number by their name. I don't know what the numbers are, but I do know that this is a good fight for both men at the place they are in their careers. Ben Rothwell is a blood and guts kind of heavyweight fighter. He's durable as hell. Marcin Jabora, less so. So I'm excited for this. It's a coin toss. Jeez.
Coin that cost.
It's a coin toss with Ben Rothwell. It's like, you flip it up in the air and you either call boring Wallenstall decision or an uncharacteristically crazy heavyweight fight. It's one or the other. Yeah. It's nothing in between. So for that, I'm excited. Now we'll move on to the co-main event, which you said was a late addition to the card?
No, so Barboza was fighting somebody else, and that person just recently got injured and fell off, and Amir Connie jumped in. Let me see who that was.
Okay. Yeah, and while you're looking that up, I'll just mention that Perez Almeida got canceled because no, it wasn't Perez. It was Thomas Almeida and
it was Sadiq Yusuf.
That was set to fight Barboza.
Yep, because Barboza went down to featherweight.
Almeida canceled. Bout. There we go.
Thomas Almeida was going to fight.
There you go. Thank you. I spelled his name wrong.
Yes.
Who was he fighting?
Alejandro Perez. Who
I was right. Perez. But it was the wrong Perez I was thinking of. Alejandro Perez tested positive for COVID, unfortunately.
Yes, that is correct.
And Thomas Almeida got his fight canceled. That's a dude that I'm always excited to watch Thomas Almeida fight. But he is Thomas Almeida, kind of a side note on that guy. He is like an unfulfilled promise. That is how I feel about him.
There's so many of those in the UFC.
Yeah, there are so many of those in MMA just throughout time. The Eric Silva's, the John Hathaway. There's a bunch of, but when he got slept by Garbrandt was when his star just plummeted. He had some really great performances, man. He had some awesome performances. But to get back to the card, we have Barboza taking on Amir Connie. I love this fight. As a fight to push Barboza at featherweight, very good. As a fight to test how good Amir Connie actually is, very good. I love this fight, and I'm amazed that it came together late notice because of how much sense it makes. It makes a lot of sense.
Americani just fought, right? He was recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am concerned, though. I'll tell you what. Yeah, he's coming off that quick submission at 251 in the first round. I've seen him in fights that are rough and brutal. I've seen him get beat up real bad. He doesn't really respond very well to getting like brutalized. And I think at featherweight, Barboza might just beat the hell out of him. But that being said, if it goes to the ground, he has Americani's got excellent grappling, slick submissions. And maybe he switches it up and like really does some cool stuff on the feet with Barboza. But I think Barboza on the feet at featherweight is God. Yeah, right at lightweight, it was like, oh Lord, dude, some of those, kicks and strikes are just like so painful. At featherweight, he's faster and like really popping on dudes. Like, I think he beats Americani up.
I mean, it's entirely possible. And looking at their skill sets and how they fight, it is a huge, huge test for Americani.
Mm-hmm.
Massive. And
most like elite guy he's ever fought.
Yeah, but for Barboza, this is important too, because even though Americani is not necessarily, he's not the super young upstart he was when he first entered into the UFC, he's still relatively young. He's still one of the dudes on the come up. So Barboza, had that fight against Dan Ige. I thought he won. Dan Ige, there we go. I thought he won. And I really want to see if he can do it again against Amir Khani. And yeah, I think we have a general expectation of how that fight should go, but I got to see it. I got to see what happens. And yeah, last but not least, it's definitely not least because it's the main event. It is Cory Sandhagen taking on. Why am I blanking on his name?
Moraes.
Marlon Moraes. Jesus Christ. Sandhagen Moraes.
It's kind of a weird matchup, isn't it?
I love it.
Like it's cool, like their style matchup is great, but it seems like a fight they wouldn't make. Like Sandhagen just got quickly finished by what's his name, who they're not giving title shot to for some reason.
Yeah.
Aljo. And Moraes kind of got screwed over with that whole Aldo situation. But I do like the fight a lot. Very interesting. It's the Aljo situation though. Like why have they not booked Jan versus Aljo yet? That should have been on the Khabib Gaethje card, or at the very least should be booked. I mean, we're already booked through like the rest of this year. Are you telling me Jan's not going to defend that belt the whole rest of this year when the number one contender is we already know who it is and we're sitting ready to go? Like what's the holdup? So I'm concerned that whoever wins here has a very dominant, like Moraes, who has a win over Aljo, right? Moraes goes out there and like murks Sandhagen. They're like, all right, cool, you're in. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Aljo's up next.
Yeah, I really do. I love it from a stylistic standpoint because each guy is phenomenal on the feet. And that's probably where it's going to take place. You have I think why the matchup got made is because of that style. Even though both men are kind of on different trajectories, not much. I mean, Moraes was only one up, and Sandhagen is only one down. I think that the fact that Moraes is not, I don't expect either man to shoot on the other one. And Sandhagen, there's arguments for both men. Sandhagen is a volume striker, and he doesn't wear down over 25 minutes. He's good. He is good conditioning-wise. Moraes, we've seen wear down over 25 minutes.
Yeah.
The power equation, in my mind, is clearly on the side of Moraes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of, can Moraes get his job done quickly, or can Sandhagen drag this shit out until the 5th round?
Yeah.
I'm excited for this fight. I think, while I don't think the winner should get the next opportunity, title opportunity, it puts them right up there, to the point where I'm not sure what they do from there. The winner of this fight, if they don't get a title shot, I'm not sure where you put them or what you do with them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those. I mean, let's just say the winner is not in a bad spot.
No.
Coming out of the main event.
You're basically the number 2 guy in the division. The winner is.
Yeah, you are the negotiations backup. You're the guy. You're the guy that is lucky to receive the phone call when the actual number 1 contender doesn't want to play ball.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's it'll be a fun night of fights come Saturday. Even though even though they seem, these cards are super light on name value. They are. I don't think anyone could argue the opposite. But they've still delivered some pretty good action, and I like when my expectations are super low, because it usually turns in some pretty dang good fights. But yeah, man, I'm excited for Saturday. Like, I'm excited for every Saturday, because that's kind of how the UFC has been getting it done here lately. These shotgun blasts of events.
Mm-hmm. Non-stop, baby.
Non-stop. Well, speaking of stopping, I think we're at the end of the episode.
Hey.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Is there anything else on your mind, or anything that you want to get out to the people before we get out of here?
Clips are now live on the channel. So if you guys don't want to watch the full episode, we will have clips for each full episode broken down, distributed throughout the week. You can watch in segments, watch as we talk about each topic that we discuss in little chunks and break it down, digest it over the week. So clips are now live. Be aware.
Yeah, badass. And we got a nice blue logo now for those clips.
Got the Clips logo.
That's Clips on it. That is why it's called the Clips logo. Yes. And you can find us on Instagram at Sparring Partners Podcast.
Yes, that's right. We do have an Instagram.
Yeah.
You can
we have an Instagram.
Questions there and stuff.
Yeah, we have an Instagram, which will be linked down below. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, ask questions for next week. Really, anything at all. Just or you can email us if you use the old.
Yeah, there you go. Email us. Hit us up on Patreon. Hit that Cash App, Venmo.
Well, when we get,
we broke, son. We broke.
Yeah, when we get each and every one of those funding sources set up, we'll let you know. In the meantime, you can send all cash via carrier pigeon. In the meantime, my name's Coby McKinley. That's Brad Jones. Thanks for listening.
Peace.